The Constitution of India. Part 5, The Union, Chapter 1, The Executive. Article 66, Election of Vice President. Subclause 1. The Vice President shall be elected by the members of an electoral college consisting of the members of both Houses of Parliament, in accordance with the system of proportional representation by means of the single transferable vote, and the voting at such election shall be by secret ballot. Subclause 2. The Vice President shall not be a member of either House of Parliament or of a House of the Legislature of any state, and if a member of either House of Parliament or of a House of the Legislature of any state be elected Vice President, he shall be deemed to have vacated his seat in that House on the date on which he enters upon his office as Vice President. Subclause 3. No person shall be eligible for election as Vice President unless he a. is a citizen of India, b. has completed the age of 35 years, and c. is qualified for election as a member of the Council of States. Subclause 4. A person shall not be eligible for election as Vice President if he holds any office of profit under the Government of India or the Government of any state or under any local or other authority subject to the control of any of the said governments. Explanation. For the purposes of this article, a person shall not be deemed to hold any office of profit by reason only that he is the President or Vice President of the Union or the Governor of any state or is a minister either for the Union or for any state. Article 67, Term of Office of Vice President. The Vice President shall hold office for a term of 5 years from the date on which he enters upon his office, provided that a. Vice President may, by writing under his hand addressed to the President, resign his office, b. A Vice President may be removed from his office by a resolution of the Council of States passed by a majority of all the then members of the Council and agreed to by the House of the People, but no resolution for the purpose of this clause shall be moved unless at least 14 days' notice has been given of the intention to move the resolution. c. A Vice President shall, notwithstanding the expiration of his term, continue to hold office until his successor enters upon his office. Article 68. Time of holding election to fill vacancy in the office of Vice President and the term of office of person elected to fill casual vacancy. Subclause 1. An election to fill a vacancy caused by the expiration of the term of office of Vice President shall be completed before the expiration of the term. Subclause 2. An election to fill a vacancy in the office of Vice President occurring by reason of his death, resignation or removal, or otherwise shall be held as soon as possible after the occurrence of the vacancy, and the person elected to fill the vacancy shall, subject to the provisions of Article 67, be entitled to hold office for the full term of 5 years from the date on which he enters upon his office. Article 69, Oath or Affirmation by the Vice President. Every Vice President shall, before entering upon his office, make and subscribe before the President, or some person appointed in that behalf by him, an oath or affirmation in the following form, that is to say, I, A. B. do swear in the name of God solemnly affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India as by law established and that I will faithfully discharge the duty upon which I am about to enter. Article 70, Discharge of President's Functions in Other Contingencies. Parliament may make such provision as it thinks fit for the discharge of the functions of the President in any contingency not provided for in this chapter. Article 71, Matters relating to, or connected with, the election of a President or Vice President. Subclause 1. All doubts and disputes arising out of or in connection with the election of a President or Vice President shall be inquired into and decided by the Supreme Court, whose decision shall be final. Subclause 2. If the election of a person as President or Vice President is declared void by the Supreme Court, acts done by him in the exercise and performance of the powers and duties of the office of President or Vice President, as the case may be, on or before the date of the decision of the Supreme Court shall not be invalidated by reason of that declaration. Subclause 3. Subject to the provisions of this Constitution, Parliament may by law regulate any matter relating to or connected with the election of a President or Vice President. Subclause 4. The election of a person as president or vice president shall not be called in question on the ground of the existence of any vacancy for whatever reason among the members of the Electoral College electing him. Article 72, Power of President to grant pardons, etc., and to suspend, remit or commute sentences in certain cases. Subclause 1. The President shall have the power to grant pardons, reprieves, respites or remissions of punishment or to suspend, remit or commute the sentence of any person convicted of any offense, a. in all cases where the punishment or sentence is by a court-martial, b. in all cases where the punishment or sentence is for an offense against any law relating to a matter to which the executive power of the Union extends, c. in all cases where the sentence is a sentence of death. Subclause 2. Nothing in subclause a. of clause 1. shall affect the power conferred by law on any officer of the armed forces of the Union to suspend, remit or commute a sentence passed by a court-martial. Subclause 3. Nothing in subclause c. of clause 1. shall affect the power to suspend, remit or commute a sentence of death exercisable by the governor of a state under any law for the time being in force. Article 73, Extent of executive power of the Union. Subclause 1. Subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the executive power of the Union shall extend, a. to the matters with respect to which Parliament has power to make laws, and, b. to the exercise of such rights, authority and jurisdiction as are exercisable by the Government of India by virtue of any treaty or agreement, provided that the executive power referred to in subclause a. shall not, save as expressly provided in this Constitution or in any law made by Parliament, extend in any state to matters with respect to which the legislature of the state has also power to make laws. Subclause 2. Until otherwise provided by Parliament, a state and any officer or authority of a state may, notwithstanding anything in this article, continue to exercise in matters with respect to which Parliament has power to make laws for that state such executive power or functions as the state or officer or authority thereof could exercise immediately before the commencement of this Constitution.